name's Emmeline Tyler. I'm an avid reader and I also love watching TV. So today's video is about this book, MAID by Stephanie Land, and the Netflix TV show by the same name, which was inspired by the book. So I say inspired by rather than an adaptation of, because that's what it is. It's more loose. It's not a retelling of the book. I mean, this is a memoir, and so that can be hard to put into a film, well, I guess in this case TV version. But today I'm talking about that. So what I'm talking about is the difference between the book and the TV show and how those differences are interesting to me. So number one, the first difference is in the TV show they go overboard to make Alex, the main character, likable. So this plays into two main tropes. One is the perfect victim in relation to domestic violence, and number two is the undeserving poor. So just a warning, this video does contain mild to moderate spoilers for both the book and the Netflix show. So if you're particularly sensitive to spoilers, just go and watch or read both before watching this video. So in the book, the abusive boyfriend actually kicks her and her daughter out, and it happens like before the story starts. And in the TV show, she leaves in the middle of the night. In the TV show, she has a love interest, but she resists him because she's like aware of the power dynamic and doesn't want to like just get back into another relationship with someone, be dependent on a man, especially because he has all this money, like as he's comfortable, not like super wealthy, and is doing her a favor, and he is leveraging that to try and get her attention, and that happens, but she's resisting that dynamic. But in the book, after she splits up with the father of her child, she goes online, starts doing some online dating, and gets together with this guy who's like pretty crap, like not necessarily abusive, but really mistreats her and is disrespectful of her. And then he ends up kicking her out as well. The third big difference in the way in which Alex is like perfect victim is in the TV show, she, like, having a daughter just seems to mainly be a logistical problem to her, like as in she needs to find babysitting all the time. This daughter, who's 2 years old and turns 3 throughout the series, and she's going through homelessness and massive disruptions, and 2-year-olds are cantankerous at the best of times, but she's just this angelic little happy thing, just happy to like watch stuff on the iPad and just go along with whatever's happening. And like there's only one scene where Alex loses her cool at her when she throws her doll out the window, but yeah, it doesn't really make any sense. It doesn't add up. It's not realistic. So she's just this perfect mother. She has this perfect daughter. The daughter never has an emotional explosion, and this mother, Alex, going through massive stress, never yells at her daughter, and it's completely unrealistic. And it is different to the book, which is just much more realistic and describes them having like screaming matches, and but in a way that made it clear that she's a very loving mother and not like abusive. But yeah, I just found that much more like not holistic, but like deeper and more meaningful, and because it was so realistic in the book, whereas I feel like what we have in the TV show is this sanitized version. So yeah, I hope I've explained that properly. But yeah, Alex is this girl power, leaving the abusive man, resisting the attention of another one, and this perfect mum, never yelling, whereas in the book she's like a much more flawed and realistic character, and I enjoyed that much more because I felt like the TV show was working so hard to make her likable because it was so bleak. It's such a bleak show, and if it was any more difficult to watch, it would be unwatchable. So this leads into the third point, which is about race. So I also think, and other people have commentated about this online, particularly when the show came out, whenever it was, that she is relatable to a broader audience, read white audience, because she's white, and that's why, part of the reason why people will listen to this story. And the people who made the show, like, just made some weird choices around race, which have to be choices. So, for example, the main relationship between the main character, Alex, and one of the women she cleans for, who ends up being her direct boss, which is not in the book at all, this relationship. The woman she's cleaning for is black and a lawyer, and she herself is poor and white and working class here. And I felt like they were trying to make a point, but I don't know what the point was. And then at the women's shelter, the woman in charge of it was black, and I felt like that was like almost like a mammy figure. Like, this is a very American thing, so I'm not really confident to talk about it. Also, I'm white, but yeah, it just seemed like this big mother hen who was like taking the white woman on this self-actualization journey, and that was problematic to me. And then the other maids, and then the woman running her own business, were portrayed as like unethical, immoral, like they were stealing stuff. The woman running the cleaning business was a hard-headed businesswoman in a way that wasn't presented as being a good thing. And then meanwhile, Alex was this angelic, like she did do immoral things, but you're always on her side. But she was like not like the other maids, as in she was working hard and she wasn't stealing stuff. And all the other maids were women of colour who were doing the wrong thing. And I'm just like, why? Why are you doing this? And it wasn't really a thing in the book. Like, I didn't notice anyone's race being described. And the author herself has, in interviews, is much more like politically aware of this kind of thing, and she's very aware of her own privilege, that the only reason this book got published and that she got the Netflix deal was because it's a white person telling this story, and she's aware of the unfairness of that, given that most people doing these jobs are women of colour. The third difference between the book and the TV show is the way that Alex, who she is in the TV show, leaves her abusive partner. So in the book, he kicks her out, and then eventually she just gets out and goes to Montana for writing school, and that whole thing happens. But she just tells him, and then she just makes it happen, and she leaves. But in the TV show, that tries to happen, but he's making it difficult. So this actually happens twice in the TV show. The first time, like, there's two custody battles, and the first one, he realizes that the kid's better off with her mum, and he agrees to 50-50 custody and settles it out of court. Literally, they're standing outside court about to go in, and he just like has a moment, come to Jesus moment, and realizes, okay, this is for the best. And then the second time is at the end of the show, when she's going to Montana and he's fighting her tooth and nail, and then eventually he has this moment of like, he scares himself, like he snaps at Maddie, and then he realizes he's not the person he wants to be, and so he says, yep, it's fine, you take her. And they have this conversation, which is actually going against, I think she has an AVO against him at this point, and so it's like, that's just ignored. But this plot line, I just couldn't get around it, like, because what's that message that's sending? It's basically like, if you have an abusive partner or an abusive like father of your children, and you're having a custody battle, the best you can hope for is that he just relents and realizes the error of his ways. So that's like, no, that's not a good way to resolve things. And I saw an interview with the creator of the TV show, and she said that it was really important for her not to present him as a mustache twirling baddie and like a villain or a monster, and to show his own trauma and his background and why he is the way he is. So maybe this is part of making him human, but it really didn't work for me. And this is part of a broader issue of the way that we talk about domestic violence in books and movies and TV, and how we tell these stories, because it's such a complicated thing, and I don't have the answers for how we should be telling these stories differently. Like, another example is one of my favorite authors, Liane Moriarty, wrote a book called Big Little Lies, and it has a domestic violence storyline in it, and the ending is, I just thought it was too neat, and it really frustrated me. But that was just what she felt she needed to do to fit within the genre of popular fiction. So yeah, I don't have the answers, but one of the things I would like recommendations, if you have them, on good literature or TV show and movies that deal with domestic violence in a way that seems responsible and also realistic. So those are the three differences between the TV show and the book. And as a little PS, so in both versions, she gets her happily ever after. She leaves the father of her child, and she goes to writing school. But in real life, after Memoir, life keeps happening. So she kept working as a cleaner to put herself through writing school. And then she gets into at least one more relationship with an abusive man. One of whom, like, she's written articles about this, so I can just link them below without having to get into it here. But it's pretty dark when you find out that life keeps going on. She has another child as a single mum. Like, I think when she gives birth, she's a single mum again, and just like really having a tough time. But in 2019, she got married to a man who has his own 2 children. They became a blended family, and it seems like she got her happily ever after, especially according to heteronormative standards of that. Thanks so much for watching, and again, let me know any good recommendations you have for literature and TV show and movies about domestic violence that are dealt with responsibly. And let me know if you either read the book or watched the TV show, if this video has inspired you to do one or the other, or both. Alright, bye!